So I wanted to come on this morning and talk to you a little bit about how to budget for your marketing. If it's the first time you're watching me, my name is V Roberts of Insight to Marketing. And for those of you that don't know, over the last 27 years, I've managed marketing budgets. I've looked at campaigns and developed those campaigns. I've had brands I've inherited that I've had to develop. I've also created brands from scratch. And of course, I've also built some very successful marketing campaigns on all kinds of budget. Zero budget in some instances where I've worked with charities, £250,000 budget where I've worked on property investment campaigns, and so on and so on. So I have a very good experience of managing marketing budgets and knowing how to make your marketing budget work. And actually, when I started my business, some of you don't know this, but I actually started on £100 budget because I've been made redundant and stupidly spent all of my money. And so I didn't really have that much left. I could only use really online marketing and also the £100 I had, which I used to build my website. So, well, it was £90. But let me know if you're watching now, if you have a marketing budget, and I'm going to kick off with some tips for you. Literally stay here for about 10 minutes. And if you've got any questions, you can ask me questions, because obviously as a brand and marketing practitioner, my job is to consult with clients who pay me to train them or coach them or also educate them on the best way to manage their marketing budgets. And so I'm going to share some of my tips with you today, in the hope that, why is this coming my eye now? In the hope that you will actually be able to gather some ideas and inspiration to help you manage your budgets better. So why have a marketing budget? Well, in the history of my 27-year career, I've never worked without a marketing budget. And even when helping other small business owners and charities and working in public sector, third party campaigns, etc., the first thing I do is always ask, how much is the marketing budget? Because without a marketing budget, you can't really gauge how much you can do. Let me be honest with you, because you're going to need budget if you can't spend time doing the marketing yourself on outsourcing. You might need a budget for getting photography done. You might need a budget for building a website. You might need a budget for going to an event and, exhibiting. You may need a budget for advertising. There's all kinds of things. So I'm going to touch on a few points here, and then I'm going to do a longer video for you, which I'll put on the YouTube. If you're part of my membership community, you'll be able to access that. But for me, I'm going to share some of the key things that many of us do not consider because we just delve right into the whole social media and the reels and everything else. And then when we need to spend money, it's not there. And I will share with you that actually in doing my coaching over the last kind of 8 years, something that I've educated my clients about is the importance of understanding your resources. So really getting to grips with how much time you've got, how much money you've got, and also how many people you may need. Okay. The people part is actually really quite important. So give some thought to what resources you've got or what you can make available or what you may be able to spend over time. Okay. So the first thing that I want you to think about is your brand, because brand does need development. Even if you have the same logo over a time, you're going to need to think about your branding. So I'm going to put that in. And I'm going to say to you that in terms of your branding, it's not just a logo. When you're doing marketing and you're looking at how you can improve your marketing budget, you need to be allocating some of that money to go towards your branding and your design. So your website, hiring a photographer, hiring someone to design your photographer. Maybe you want someone to write the text and the copy for you. There'll be a fee for that. But really, when you're looking at branding, the key part of branding for your business is going to be your logo. And I know that many of you run to Fiverr and, all of the other websites and get your websites done for free. I want to say to you, whilst that is a solution, in my history of doing consulting, I see a lot of logos that look the same, and I can automatically tell that they've been done by someone on Fiverr or by someone that's charged really cheap. Let me be real with you. So, and you can let me know in the comments if you've ever seen that. There'll be well-being companies whose logos look identical, but just a different color, or there's a hint of gold in one of them because they've literally gone to Fiverr and these people are working from templates and or, designs that are very much free that they then brand for you and sell to you. So be mindful of the design agency that you choose. Make sure you've thought about your budget for design. And I would say a good logo is going to cost at least £250. And that's just for a basic. And in that, when you're getting your logos designed, you want to make sure that you've been given brand guidelines. So you immediately understand how your brand should appear, the formats it can be used in. You want a PNG, you want a JPEG. And you also want to make sure you've got a PDF version of your logo, and make sure that you have paid for that as part of the design service, because many of you will get a logo designed and there's no variation of it. So it's not given to you in black and white. It's not given to you as a transparent file. It's not given to you as a file that you can resize, for example, or compress. It's also, for many of you, not given to you in the right size. Okay, so you'll get a logo and it will be like 220 meg. That is really small. You need to have a high resolution logo. So when you're looking at your budget, make sure that you've thought about budgeting for design. Good morning, those of you that are coming in. If it's the first time you're watching, let me know. And think about your brand in terms of design and budgeting. As I said, photography, your website. If you need to outsource your branding, you're going to need a budget for that. So think about that in the early stages. Then I want you to really think about as well your website, because your website is going to need a budget, whether that's, your hosting fee, whether that's your design fees, whether that's looking at, your whole kind of build of the website and maintenance, ongoing maintenance. All of that requires a budget. So let me just put this in as point number 2. And I can see Garner's in the house. Good morning. Some of you are saying you've got budgets already for your brand guidelines. You've already done brand guidelines. That's fantastic. So you want to be thinking about your website. And many of you, again, don't think about your website because it's not important. You just want to get on social media, start doing those videos and, listening to all the guru stuff. Listen, your website's important. It's literally your shop front. If you don't have a physical store on the high street, or you're not able to get out to exhibitions and events, it's really important you think about your website. And if you don't have a budget for your website, think about having a web page created. There are many different ways you can create web pages. When I first started on my very small budget before my website was built, I used LinkedIn. I set up a company page on LinkedIn because that's where my client base was going to be. And I also made sure that I had a Facebook business page as well. And that basically was the web page that I used whilst my website was being designed. So make sure you've thought about your website. As I said, you need development costs. You need to think about your hosting and maintenance costs. And also, if you're in a really saturated industry, you want to be thinking about SEO as well. And I would certainly recommend, look at getting an SEO specialist if you're not really good at things like keywords and meta tagging and alt tags and all of that. Educate yourself. Invest in training if need be. Okay. Good morning. Let me know where you're watching from. Those of you that are watching. Cool. You got a web page. Fantastic. The third thing you want to think about is content creation. So I speak to so many clients who, when they're looking at their marketing, they get all the free versions. But I've got to tell you that many of you do not consider that £12 a month fee or that £4 a month fee for the pro version. So at minimum, some of you now are ready to level up and start looking at your budget in terms of pro versions of apps. And I could go through a whole load, but the first one I want to mention now on this live is Canva. Canva is definitely something that you want to get a pro version of, and also InShot. Those are two, I'll put them in the chat for you. Good morning, those of you that are coming in. Canva and InShot are two tools that I would say you should probably look at getting the pro version of, because you're limited on any app. You will always be limited to what you can access and use, whether you're on desktop or mobile, but more importantly, whether you're on the pro version or whether you are on the basic free version. Okay, so make sure you've given some thought to, if you can afford to, budgeting monthly for the pro version. On things like Canva, that gives you access to lots of things like specialized templates, images that other people can't use because they're not on pro, which are available to you for commercial use. And also, you get access to lots of other apps on Canva when you're on pro. So again, think about budgeting for your content creation in terms of apps, but also in terms of things like, as I said, copywriting for your website, looking at your social media posts if you struggle with that, and also video content. If you're not good with video, hire a videographer. Now, you may have seen recently on my stories, we were out for a client doing a day shoot at their sports day event that they had. And we literally did 2 videos for them, 2 main videos. One long video where we filmed some of the participants. It's about 11 minutes long. And then from that, they were also able to get 15 shorter videos, which they can then use on their shorts and their reels and even YouTube as examples for short form content. And that included a fee, but that's like 15 videos and 2 longer videos that they can use on their website. The longer video they can use on their Instagram as a longer video, right? They can chop it down to 3 minutes. And again, if you have tools like Canva and InShot and CapCut, okay, I'll put that in the chat for you that don't know about this. You can use those to actually trim your videos. So hiring a videographer is a really good idea, and making sure you've got a budget for that. Again, if you've got a festive campaign coming up, an Easter campaign coming up, getting a videographer can save you loads of time. And actually, just to let you know, I'm actually going to be hosting a special day. If you want to know more about it, you can message me in October and November for those of you that do need help with content creation. So do message me and I'll send you the information about that separately. It will be for a limited number of people, but it will certainly help you in developing your profiles, your branding, and also your content creation. So think about your video content. And then also, as I said, think about your photography. Now, I've got one of my photographers that I highly recommend right now on this live. You can see her in the chat. She's also given mentioned CapCut, as I did. If you do not have a photographer, hire a photographer. Get your headshots done. Make sure that you've got visuals of your products. If you make food, if you make clothing, make sure you've got really quality photography, because this again is going to help you to sell more. So think about content creation. As I said, that second cost there in relation to your website, as I said, is relevant to content creation. So far I've mentioned 3 things that you want to budget for as priority: your branding and design, your website and your digital presence, and then your content creation. Make sure you have thought through those things, all right? Because even if you don't have a budget straight away, you are going to need to think about that as you start to level up with your branding, all right? So I'm going to put in content creation. And as I said, under that will come copywriting. And to be fair, you can use things like ChatGPT and other tools as well for developing your content. Okay, ChatGPT, you can give it a prompt, and I've got lots of prompts that I'll be sharing with my coaching community, but you can give it a prompt to generate inspiration for you for content. You can also give it a prompt to generate 30 plus posts for you, which you can then put into Canva on Canva Pro, and you can have that automatically give you design posts using those captions, using those text to automatically do that for you to save you lots of time. All right, the 4th thing you want to budget for is advertising. And again, this is something that many of you might want to think about when you are coming up to certain campaign periods. I'm going to use the example of festive. So how many of you have an advertising budget? Let me know how many of you have a content creation budget, how many of you have photography budget, how many of you have a website budget, how many of you have a branding budget. Let me know in the chat. I want to know who's in my community and how I can help you. So advertising is something that I've paid for thousands, 25K for an ad. I've done ads with TFL. I've done ads on billboards with JC Deco. I've done ads with Clear Channel in phone boxes. I have worked with clients that have really big ad spend, and it's been my responsibility to guide them on how best to spend their advertising budget. And this is why it qualifies me to help my clients with real-time advice on what is best to advertise in. I've also had clients that have come to me before working with me, and they've said, look, V, we spent money on an ad campaign. I never forget, I had a client that started working with me who, I think she was doing one-to-one like confidence coaching, and it was very local based, but she paid for an advert that was going into a publication that was at Gatwick Airport, which cost her quite a few £1,000s. And she'd been convinced this was a really good idea. And it was only after she'd paid for the ad that she then spoke to me. And I said to her, let's think about this. Are your clients at Gatwick Airport? That's a really wild place to put an advert if your community is not global. She was a local confidence coach. She paid thousands to go into the kind of airport waiting rooms of VIP. Now I understand the thought process, more money, etc. They're waiting in VIP. They must have more spend. But the money she spent on that ad, she could have spent in local press. She could have spent doing PR. She could have spent attending an event. She could have spent creating a whole podcast series that she then promoted at a local level, or even done flyers. So when you're looking at ad spend, make it make sense. Who do you want to actually target? What is it? Offline or online ads that you're doing? Online ads are really effective. If you're going to do banner ads on someone else's website, there's a cost. Per impression, there's a cost. If you're going to do advertising, like doing a little kind of roll at the side by the navigation bar on someone's website, there's a cost. There may be a really big event or expo coming up, as an example, where your ideal clients are in the room. And it could actually work out better for you to have an online ad than a printed ad in their magazine or in their program. How many of you understood what I just said? Put a number 1 in the comments if that just made sense. So when we are thinking about advertising, really at a kind of top line, it's online or offline advertising. It's also thinking about, and it could be both, by the way, it's also thinking about, where is your money best spent? Do you want to put an ad on a global website which has a global audience, or do you want to do it localized? Where are you distributing or shipping your products? Where are your target audience? Because it doesn't make sense to put an ad somewhere, as this lady did before she started working with me, in an airport waiting room where everybody is, flying out, flying in. You can't even pinpoint where they've seen your ad. And then, of course, you may not attract your ideal clients. LinkedIn ads. Instagram ads, they could work out more cost effective for you, as an example, rather than you driving all the way across town to do an exhibition, because sometimes you don't know who's at that exhibition, and you spending £700 or £1,000 on a shell of a stand, then bringing all your stuff to that place, then paying for fuel, then paying for staffing to facilitate a whole day out, may be more expensive than you paying for an advert. So always think about your advertising, do some research, think it out, get different quotes from people, and don't forget that good adverts have good creative. They have good design, really good hook, really good copywriting as well. So that's all important. And again, sometimes you've got a budget for that. Okay, so thank you for the ones. So make sure when you're thinking about advertising, you're looking at your social media platforms, if that works for you. Don't dive in and spend lots of money. Think about whether or not you want to have a overall budget. So for example, do not accidentally, as I did when I first started, do a daily budget thinking it's your total budget, because they will trip you up with that one. So make sure you've looked at your advertising spend. If you're doing online, make sure you've got a total budget in your mind. If you don't want to spend more than £200 on your ad campaign on Facebook, for example, make sure that your daily spend does not exceed that total of £200. Put a number 2 in the comments if that made sense, because I made that mistake, I think 2 or 3 times, right? And actually, when you set that daily budget at £200 and your campaign's running for like a week, you've already spent £1,400. Okay, so do not make that mistake. Think about the daily spend. Think about your overall budget you've got for advertising, particularly if you're going to be doing it online. And also think about the outcomes you want, because the outcomes are really, really important. Okay, now I'm going to wrap this up in a moment. Make sure you've thought about your ad. Okay, creative, what you want to sell, the desired outcome, where people should contact you, how they're going to buy. All of that needs to come into it in terms of the process that you need to have at the back end to manage the supply and demand, right? Like, let me just share with you McDonald's, my local drive-through. And let me tell you, I don't go to McDonald's that much anymore, hence why I'm now losing a few pounds. But in my local McDonald's, they launched this, what's the name of this stupid? They launched a new milkshake, right? Or new, it's called Grimace, I think. Some of you will let me know if you are into McDonald's. They launched some Grimace thing, right? They had it advertised all about the place. Grimace, 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 Grimace. And my kids said, Mum, they sold out last time, so we need to get there early in the morning. Yes, I did. I was a bad mum in the summer holidays. We need to get there early in the morning, Mum. We need to go and get the Grimace. As soon as we drove through the drive-through, they had like an A4 poster up by the tannoy, which is where you make your order. And it said, I'm sorry, we're out of stock. Now, my thing is, if you're going to advertise something and you're advertising and it's quite new, you should be able to kind of manage or predict, right? If you're looking at your inventory and your stock levels and your previous orders, if you've ever done it before as an offer, you should already have an idea, if you're going to run an ad campaign, of how much ingredients you need, of how much stock you need. So when I'm talking about advertising, I'm talking about that kind of stuff as well. You shouldn't really be running out of stuff. Now, I'm going to share with you that with my brand and marketing planner this year, I didn't print as much. And so I did have to reorder. I did have to reorder 2 or 3 times. Okay. But that's because there was a design flaw in the first batch that I created. And I then had to put the orders on hold and then reorder more. So this time round, I'm ordering them much earlier in. You might have seen some of my posts about the new look. You can let me know if you've seen the new look. And I think some of you that are on this live have already put your orders in. But that was me managing my own expectations, because I know more orders are going to come in. I know the timings of when those orders are going to come in. So any ad campaign that I'm doing needs to take that into account. So when you're advertising, think about supply and demand. Think about your potential outcomes that you would like to get. What does that look like to you? How many sales does that look like? What are your financial goals from your advertising that you're trying to work towards? Because all of that is part of your marketing. And the last point I'm going to raise, although there are like another 4 or 5 that I'm going to put on a secret video and share with some of you that are in my community, is email marketing. And there are lots of other things you want to put budget aside for. I'm not going to go into it now because I'm not going to spend too long. But email marketing is really, really important. If email is important to you, and I think it really should be, if you're here on Instagram, for example, trying to make sales, I'm highly going to recommend that you look at email marketing if you're not already using it. And whether that looks like you scraping up 3 posts and putting those into an email and sending that email out with your latest trend or your latest offer and making that your email, that is fine. But you need to be engaging with people on email marketing. And the reason is that people on Instagram aren't always on Instagram and seeing your content. People on Instagram are not always on Instagram waiting for you to post something. And if you're not that consistent, actually having email marketing is going to massively help you, because when you land in their inbox, as many of you know, most of us see emails every day. If you don't see your emails every day, whether or not you're replying to them or responding to them or engaging with them is a different thing. But most of us have access to email every day. There are billions of email users. So you are doing yourself a disservice if you are not already set up on email marketing and asking for subscribers to join. You are also doing yourself a disservice if you do not have a branded email that you send out and you're still using BT Internet or Gmail or Outlook. Invest in your email marketing. It will level you up really quickly. And when you're looking at your email marketing, you want to be thinking about your budget for monthly costs and email software, and also things like automation and design. If you're not a designer, like my agency, we create templates for clients. We've literally just signed a client who we're going to be helping with their email marketing. But also in terms of your design, that is important. So if you're doing it yourself, make sure that you've given some thought. Good morning. Make sure you've given some thought to how your emails look. Because you can't just be sending out an all text email. And, you know, I accept that some people, they don't have HTML access when they read your emails. So you need to make sure you've got your emails being delivered in HTML and text only. You need to have a plain text version and an HTML or branded version, because you'll know that some email providers, they actually block images. So if you are sending emails, let me just give you 2 quick tips. Make sure you ask people to subscribe. Make sure you ask people to add you to their contacts so that they don't go into their Gmail secondary inbox and miss every email you send. And also make sure that you have a plain text version and the version that you send out with all your images and your nice stuff in it. And do not put large images in your email. They will take a very long time to download and people won't even open and read it. Okay, so email marketing is the last point I want to share in terms of budget management. Make sure you've thought about your email marketing. All right, make sure you've given some thought to your email marketing. So I'm going to recap on some of those points. If you've got a marketing budget, I celebrate you this morning. I celebrate you. This live was really for those of you that don't have a marketing budget and you're not really sure where to start. And in today's live, I've really just captured a few ways. And as I said, there are many more that you need to be thinking about to make sure that your marketing is on point. And I'm giving you this heads up now so that you can start managing a budget now ahead of the festive season, because many of you are going to want to make sales. Many of you are going to want to disrupt your timeline. And by that, I mean sharp different. You're going to want to show up with some new content. You're going to want to give that Christmas offer. And all of these things I've mentioned are going to be part of that. All right. So you want to make sure, as I said, you've got a budget. And when you're budgeting for your marketing, you want to make sure you've got a budget for your branding and design. You want to make sure you've got a budget for your branding and design so that your copywriting, your visuals, your photography, and all of that stuff is sorted. You also want to make sure that you've got a really good budget in place in terms of, you know, what you're doing when it comes to, what was the second point I raised? Let's make sure I go through. So I said design and branding. Let's just make sure, because I don't want to go off track. I'm going to summarize it for those of you that have come in late. If you're watching now, let me know where you are watching from. And as I said, my name's V Roberts. I do help small business owners and startups to get clear on their marketing. Hopefully this has given you some food for thought. Let me know in the chat if you're going to go away and look at any of these things. Let me know in the chat if you're going to go away and actually create a budget now. But in my 5-day program, I do explain how you can set a budget. And there's actually a template as well to help you do your budgeting. And of course, within the planner, which is a whole year's worth of planning, there is a whole budgeting section to help you review what you're spending and also budget better for your marketing. So let me just recap on some of my points that I shared. The first one was branding. All right. You want to make sure you thought about your branding and also your design. The second point was website. You need to make sure you thought about your website, your cost for ongoing maintenance, your cost for design, your cost for copywriting, your cost for creating content, which was point number 3, whether that's photography, whether that is looking at visuals, etc. And also things like, you know, videography as well. I mentioned that too for your content. Okay. The fourth point that I mentioned was advertising, whether it's online or offline. You need to research where to advertise. And then you need to make sure that you've thought about the best place to advertise, the outcomes that you want, and most importantly, how you're going to show up and where you're going to distribute that ad. Okay. And then my last point was email. Give some thought to how you're going to manage your email. And all of these points, whether it's branding, whether it's content creation, whether it's website design, whether it's advertising, or whether it's email, these are things you need to budget for. And there are many other aspects of budgeting that you need. But let me just finish up by saying, If you feel overwhelmed from what I've shared today and you need help, I can help you to budget. If you feel overwhelmed because you've got the budget, but actually you don't have the time to do it and you need to outsource, my agency can help you with that too. And we are affordable. And finally, if you need the help in just gathering together what your priorities are, send me a DM, because actually this can really make or break your marketing. Many of us start our businesses. We're scared of, looking at setting goals. We're scared of thinking about how to look at a budget. And I can tell you now, I've got clients who worked with me for several months before starting a budget, even though I kept on saying, you need a budget, you need a budget, you need a budget. And having that budget has really transformed their marketing, because they can now afford to invest when opportunities come up for them to exhibit, when opportunities come up for them to advertise, when opportunities come up for them to grab an offer. And, this might be an offer online or going to an event. They can afford it because they are budgeting. And part of your budget should also include investing in yourself. Not just investing in those pro versions, as I mentioned earlier, of apps, but also investing in yourself so that you can learn and understand marketing. Okay, so if you're watching this now, you know already I have my courses and programs. You can click the link in my bio. You'll be able to find out more about those. Some of them start from as little as £97 a month, which is a really tiny investment for all of the information that you get from me, the time you get with me in the group, the lives and all of that good stuff, the workbooks and the trainings. For £97, that could really up-level your marketing. So think through what you're doing. Have a budget. Make sure you set yourself some financial goals, and make sure that your budget that you're using is giving you a return on investment. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed the live today. Please do let me know if you have via the chat. I'm going to stick around for a few minutes in case anyone has any questions. But if it's the first time you're watching me, my name is V Roberts of Insight to Marketing, and I've been doing branding and marketing now for 27 years plus. And I've managed budgets of over £250,000, budgets of £0, budgets of £500, and I've been paid to manage those budgets and deliver campaigns. So when I'm talking with an expert voice as someone who's actually did the work and still doing the work in other client projects, training my coaching clients, and also my own business. So if you've got any questions, I'm going to pause my speaking and allow you to ask questions. And let me just read through some of the comments that are here. Someone says, thank you, V. Someone says, yep, good shout. Someone says, great point. Someone says, I've now added videography. Excellent. Excellent. Let's have a chat. Let's have a chat about that. That'd be really good to talk to you about that. And someone says, CapCut and Canva for sure. Fantastic. Any questions for me? Someone says, I agree, and I have brand guidelines. Fantastic. These are all things that many of us don't consider. So let's see if there are any questions. You can use the question bar at the bottom, or you can actually message me. Someone says, I'll be in touch. No worries. Someone says, email is so underrated. Yes, it is. And the thing is, for those of us that are using social media in particular, the two marry together. So I don't understand why so many people avoid it. We build lists. We've got the pop-up box on our website as the done thing that the guru advises you to do. But then what are you doing with that data? How often are you refreshing your email mailing list? How regularly are you calling people to sign up for your emails? Is your email sign up page on your website? Is it here on Instagram? Are you sharing in your stories that people could actually sign up to your emails and what they'll get from your emails, and how regularly you will send your emails and why they should sign up? Because again, this is something that many of us overlook. When you have an email marketing plan and you have an email list, it makes the difference, because when you marry that up with social media, you can make all kinds of announcements. You can also make exclusive offers, which makes your email community feel very much more loved and then more susceptible to those offers because they're part of your VIP email community. So give some thought to these tips I'm sharing. Yeah, thank you for watching and leaving your comments. Someone says, I'll be in touch. Okay, no worries. So let me know if you've watched this live and you have any questions. As I said, branding and design, your website, content creation, advertising, and email marketing are 5 key areas that you definitely want to consider in your marketing budget. And there are many other aspects. Some of us join Instagram and we get going with the reels and everything else, and we do not consider a marketing budget at all. And then when opportunities come up, you cannot afford it. So if you're making money from sales, my advice would be to put away some money so that you have a marketing budget, so that it's not always an afterthought, particularly with key campaign times like the festive season. All right. Okay. I'm going to dip off now. If you have got any questions, depending on when you watch this video, leave a comment, ask your question, and I'll get back to you. Take care and have a great week. I'll be back online tomorrow.